We've just got the reveal of Space Engineers 2 and the release date of the first alpha stage of development. Yes, you'll be able to get hands-on with Space Engineers in January 2025. But hold your engines, this will only be creative mode. We'll go into details on the full roadmap in this video, as we won't be getting things like planets, water, or even multiplayer until later on in Space Engineers 2 development. I'm gonna be honest, that part about multiplayer is disappointing, but let's crack on. Pre-orders for early access of the game is open now. However, before you rush to buy this, let me tell you about all the features. Also, let's talk about whether the game is even worth pre-ordering right now. The Keen Software House CEO, Marek Rosa, has said that if you want a polished game, basically wait and don't buy Space Engineers 2 right now. Given how money is scarce around the world right now, and we're all feeling it, it's worth thinking about this before you rush to buy that pre-order. Let's also talk about features, pricing, multiplayer, and more. Oh, and Keen have also confirmed that cable on the engineer suit is just for decoration. So yeah. Hello everyone, my name is Captain Jack and welcome to my channel. Today we're of course talking about Space Engineers 2 reveal. We've got a lot of information to cover, so feel free to take advantage of the YouTube chapter system to advance to the specific bit of information you want. But I would encourage you to watch the full video for my thoughts on what we've been presented with Space Engineers 2. It may help you inform your purchase decision. If you have any questions, drop them in the comment section below. Don't forget to let me know your thoughts on the game reveal today. While you're here, if you want to stay up to date on the latest Space Engineers 2 news, hit that subscribe button and let's get into this. The first release of Space Engineers Early Access Alpha is Creative Mode. This is referred to as Vertical Slice 1, or Update 1. On January 27th, 2025, players can jump into the game and take advantage of the 25cm unified grid system. This is the new building system in Space Engineers. It means there is no longer a small versus large grid building system. Now you can scale blocks on the same grid. So I can put small blocks onto the large blocks. It means you can detail ships with pipes or whatever you can dream of. It's very cool. A new blueprint building mode is present. This allows you to snap a blueprint to a grid, partial copy and paste sections like the example on screen, and also assign a blueprint to a toolbar. You'll be able to undo changes to the grid and redo them, so if you've made a mistake, you can fix it. Then you can replace it if you change your mind. I love this personally, and I think this new building system is a big selling point of Space Engineers 2. In the Creative Mode Early Access, the speed limit of Space Engineers 2 is now upgraded to 300 meters a second. However, there is also a safety feature for players. There is a new safe speed system. This prevents damage to grids if you're traveling under 20 meters a second. No more accidentally destroying our ships. Look, we've all been there. A new physics and damage module has been added. This is what you see with the blocks now fracturing when being damaged. In this demonstration, you can see blocks fracturing when being blown up with the developer debug tool. I like this. It'll make ship battles very interesting when your windows get smashed and half your engine is blown off. But there are some questions here. While this realistic destruction is cool, what about repairing it? Can these fractured blocks be repaired? If so, do they look like new, or will they be visually damaged but repaired? I think this should be a broader discussion at some point, and we will need to see more and get more information to make a decision on this. Of course, one of the big updates for Space Engineers is the new ray tracing and the visual revolution. This features things like global illumination, tessellated terrain, parallax mapping, sleek armor edges, and enhanced lighting. We see this throughout all the trailers. Let's not forget the paint gun. Finally, we can paint grids in a new and enhanced way. With the VRH3 engine, there is better game performance and the potential for future optimization. This builds into the enhanced creative mode with powerful building tools, which is the new voxel hand, symmetry tools, line and plane building, and also the paint tool, which we just spoke about. Okay, but let's talk about purchasing the Space Engineers 2 Alpha. We've just spoken about what's in the first early access release. Let's talk about how you go about getting it and whether you should buy it. You can pre-order the base game of Space Engineers 2 for the price of $30, or the Pioneer Edition based at $45. This Pioneer Edition appears to include the game's soundtrack, behind-the-scenes development materials, the base Space Engineers 2 game, and something called the Pioneer Edition DLC. Yes, we already have a DLC, and the game isn't even out yet. Currently, the Pioneer Edition DLC contains what I just mentioned, but more will be added it seems. Price-wise, it's okay I guess. I still think $30 is a bit steep for Early Access Alpha. But let's talk about alpha development and why rushing to pre-order it is not wise for any game. A disclaimer on the Space Engineers 2 website clearly states this is an alpha stage of development. The alpha version released with early access will only have creative mode building. We'll discuss specific other features that are coming in the roadmap in just a minute. We did just highlight what's coming in the first release, so rewind if you need to catch that. It does seem that over the coming months, Keen will be rolling out content updates once the first EA bit is out. Each of these will add new features to the early access and expand the game while focusing on improving the core elements. However, as Mark Rose himself has said, this upcoming release of Space Engineers will contain bugs and imperfections. The team is working to address these issues, but the current release will only represent a portion of a planned game. Everything is subject to change. Keen are actively saying they want to be transparent. They're saying that if you prefer a more complete gaming experience, you may want to wait for future vertical slices, or the full release of Space Engineers 2. Even more so, the first set of blocks of the game may not actually work. Let's look at the blocks in the first release of the game. With all of these blocks like the antenna, spotlights, reactors, Gatling guns, doors, medical rooms, for example, look fantastic, the disclaimer text at the bottom of this screenshot implies that these will perhaps not work. Notice the text of limited functionality. It's a very small disclaimer. So are you telling me that my Gatling gun may not work as intended, or the gravity generator may not work? Notably in the game demo on the reveal stream played by Marek, the gameplay did not show any main block interaction with some of the blocks shown on the screen here. Marek didn't access any of these blocks, which is a little bit worrying. Keen have also confirmed that the assembler will not function properly in the first release, so you won't be able to use this block as we typically use it in the first game. This may be why some of these blocks were not accessed in the demo stream. Now this text is vague and unclear. Mixed with a lack of hardcore dates on the roadmap, which we'll go through in a moment, I do feel uneasy about this. I personally kind of expected a bit more with the first release of Space Engineers 2. Yes, this is an alpha, yes, things do take time, but are you telling me a little bit more could not have been done? That disclaimer text on this image really concerns me. I fear the initial release of the game may disappoint people, mainly because people won't read past these disclaimers. They'll jump in and wonder why the game is not the same as Space Engineers 1. That disclaimer about the blocks is quietly hidden at the bottom of the screen. Keen have also said that early access of Space Engineers 2 is for those who want to play the game in the early stages, but if you want a polished version with more features, then you should wait. There you have it. Don't pre-order until you are satisfied with Space Engineers 2's development progress. Now you may think I'm being a bit too critical here. I just think it's important to understand what you're getting into fully, even more so when you're spending money on a product. This is a product, it is the early access. You are putting your hard-earned money to the company. Now, if you're not satisfied with it, what are you going to do? I do worry that some people are going to rush into this. They have not read the disclaimers, which is partially their fault, but maybe also Keen's for not being more obvious about it and maybe not hiding it in small text. And people are going to get disappointed. We're either going to refund it or we're going to review bomb it, and that could really damage Space Engineers 2 and damage Keen. I don't want to see that happen, so this is why I want to be transparent about it. What do you think of this? Do you think we should be cautious? I look forward to your feedback in the comments. Again, I'm not trying to be negative, I just want to make sure you, the community watching this, not just my community, but the whole Space Engineers community and the gaming community, are informed about what you're getting into. Okay, so we have a roadmap for Space Engineers 2. During the development reveal stream for the game, Keen also shared insight on the upcoming versions of the game. The first version will be about creative mode in Space Engineers 2. That releases on January 27th, 2025. This will allow you to access things like the new unified 25cm grid system, which we've spoken a lot about. You'll also get the next level destruction as well. Now update 1.1 will introduce the UGC workshop via Mod.io. This is how you share your creations with other players. Worryingly, Steam Workshop is not mentioned, and we'll go over this in a minute later on in the video. Update 1.2 will refine the mechanics and interface refinements. Is this when the disclaimer about block functionality will be finished? That's my question here. Update 1.5 is modding the game with the new VRage Hub and VRage Editor tech, along with other tools. We don't have full details on these just yet, so we'll revisit it another time. Update 2 is Planets and Survival. This will explore new planets for Space Engineers 2. Survival also comes in this update, showcasing improved progression and engaging challenges. There are no details on the survival element, but we do know that a backpack building system will be introduced. This may mean the likes of constructing components will now take place in the backpack. Again, we don't have full details on this, it's just what I can see in the blog post. Update 3 is water, yay! Planetary scale volumetric water will be able to transform gameplay according to Keen. You can engineer your way across oceans, rivers, and lakes. Players will be able to construct boats and submarines for underwater exploration. That I'm really excited for. Following that, the roadmap says things like multiplayer, NPCs, story campaign, and more will eventually come to the game. However, no dates are provided. Keen is treating Space Engineers 2 under a method of development called vertical slices. This is a fully playable portion of a game that showcases specific core features and improvements implemented at production quality. It serves as a milestone in the game's development while more features are added in following slices. Immediately after reading this roadmap about Space Engineers 2, my first concern was there are no dates. Yes, hard dates would be unrealistic to maintain. I don't expect Keen to say that planets, theoretically, are coming on March 1st. I use that as an example, by the way. However, why is this roadmap not being treated with quarter delivery timelines? You could easily put Q2 for Planets and Survival. Q2 encompasses April, May, and June, so you could have until near the end of June to release Planets and Survival. Instead, with a lack of dates on this roadmap, players like you and me will be left wondering when any of this will come to the game. It says future vertical slices. Future is a broad term. That could mean January 1st or it could mean 2027. The current lack of dates is both a positive and a negative. In one way, great, it does not set a hard lock date on Keen Software House's development of Space Engineers 2. The negative side is that the community are left in the dark. Keen should at least put together quarter targets on this roadmap to give us an idea of when to expect some things. Marek's blog post mentions that new vertical slice game updates will follow in the months after the first early access release. But again, how many months? 6 months or 12 months or more? That's my concern. Keen has said that dates can slip, which is true in the development of anything, whether it be my server, Space Engineers 2 or the next iPhone. But that comes down to communication. If clear and transparent communication is there, which Keen say they want with transparent development, then I think early access supporters would understand things being delayed. I would rather be told up front than not told and all left in the dark, especially if I've just bought in to be part of a development team, I guess, because that's basically what early access is. You are assisting in the testing of a game. Let me know your thoughts on this. Would you have preferred clearer dates on the roadmap, or are you happy with the vagueness of it? I am aware some of you will be on both sides of this, but I open up the discussion to you in the comments. Following on from the roadmap, let's talk about multiplayer, or rather, the lack of it. One of the biggest things that's lacking for me is multiplayer. I so wanted to be able to jump in with my friends to Space Engineers 2 right away when early access drops. Yes, I'm fully aware it takes time to build a system, but damn, it is a big blow personally. I'm also aware that the first release of Space Engineers 1 on Steam all those years ago did not have multiplayer, but this is the second game. I, and maybe some of you, was expecting a more polished first release to include critical features like this. In one way, I hope this means that multiplayer will be heavily improved from what we've seen in Space Engineers 1 by the time it launches in Space Engineers 2. If it's not been improved and does not offer new ways to play, then I will start to question what Keen have been working on for the last few years. Looking back at some of the reveal trailers, when we see all these blue engineers walking around, I feel as this was a bit misleading now. Multiplayer is a huge component of Space Engineers for myself and many players in the community. If this has not been improved, we're going to have a big problem, and likely face some issues that were encountered with Space Engineers 1. In some ways, I think core components like multiplayer should have been included in the first edition of Space Engineers 2. Missing out is quite a blow to many, including myself. Let me know what your thoughts on this are. So, we'll talk about the newly released trailer another time, but we've kind of highlighted the main features of it. We'll come back and talk about the more lore another time, as I think that deserves a dedicated video on it. So, not all the blocks from Space Engineers 1 will come to the new game of Space Engineers 2. The first early access version will only contain important blocks, but most won't be functional. We sort of touched on this earlier. Now, Keen sort of dodged this question here. I know many want to know if DLC blocks from SE1, which many of us have spent our money purchasing and supporting, will come to Space Engineers 2. This information is not clear at the moment. Some bad news. Currently, the development of PlayStation and Xbox versions of Space Engineers 2 is not in progress. Keen is focusing on the PC alpha of Space Engineers 2. This is because console release processes are different from Steam Early Access, and the current stage of development requires frequent updates that are better suited to PC versions. Keen do seem to want to bring Space Engineers 2 to consoles in the future. Part of me questions why, because I feel like this game is going to be too complicated to run, but we'll wait and see. Oh, and also a Linux version is still not a thing at the moment. I know it's going to be disappointing news to some, but, you know, we can remain hopeful, I guess. A big issue for me is it seems that Space Engineers 2 will not support the Steam Workshop. Instead, Mod.io will be used. This sucks. Personally, I much prefer the Steam Workshop, as I know Mod.io, for me, just feels buggy and not that user-friendly to me. I mean, I struggled to actually block somebody who was spamming me ages ago. I ended up turning off all my notifications in the end. Obviously, that's just a me issue. However, I do see why Keen has done this. This is to support console players eventually. This means there will not be 2 platforms for Workshop uploads. There will just be one. Currently in Space Engineers, if I want to upload something for Steam, I upload it on the Steam Workshop. But if I want to make sure those of you playing on Xbox and PlayStation can download my really terrible ship, I've got to separately upload it to Mod.io. Good news, you'll be able to transfer your grids from Space Engineers 1 to Space Engineers 2. There's also a dedicated transfer tool. I will go over this in a dedicated YouTube video once we get the release of Space Engineers 2. As a quick one, and again, we'll touch on this in another video because I think lore is a critical feature. Space Engineers 2 will offer a campaign and a story campaign, which will be really exciting. The narrative will center around brothers Miroslav and Ivan Sokol. I hope I pronounced their name right. And it will follow the colony ship we sort of see in the trailer, I believe. Again, this campaign is not going to come until later development of the game. So yeah, just keep that in mind. I know many of you are worried about the future of Space Engineers 1. Let's talk about it. Keen has said that they envision Space Engineers 2 as more than a sequel. It's a reimagining of the Space Engineers experience. They see it as taking everything players love from Space Engineers and making it 10 times better. They see the second game here as a culmination of everything they have learned. Space Engineers 2 is envisioned as more expansive, intricate, robust, and intuitive. But what does this mean for the original Space Engineers game? Keen has said that their dedication to Space Engineers 1 remains as strong as ever. Active development is continuing. For example, the 1.205 concept update has just been released. As we see in recent newsletters, for Space Engineers, the design team is already at work on the next update. Keen have confirmed that 30 developers are still working on Space Engineers 1, whereas 70 developers are working on Space Engineers 2. The next update for Space Engineers 1 will introduce more PvE content and refresh some of the in-game cargo ships. There will also be new blocks, including a small inset connector. This also allows ships with small connector blocks to connect to large grids. Kinda cool, I think. Okay, so some of my final thoughts on the Space Engineers 2 reveal. There is a hell of a lot to digest at the moment, and I've kept this video somewhat short because I probably could have spoke for another 20 minutes about everything. I will be making some follow-up videos over the next few weeks to discuss more. Some will be positive, some will be more critical of the game. If you're going to ask, Jack, should I buy Space Engineers 2 right now? This is my answer for you. If you are fully aware that Space Engineers 2 is not a finished product, A, it is heavily in development as a game, and B, that Keen themselves are saying you are joining a development journey, then yes, if you're fully aware of that, go ahead and pre-order it if you wish. However, if you want a polished game, similar to Space Engineers 1, with no bugs, with planets, water, multiplayer, no, do not pre-order the game, wait for those features to come to Space Engineers 2. Our money is very precious in this day and age. We all work very, very hard for it, no matter what job you do and where you are from around the world. Be very cautious about supporting and pre-ordering games. And I'm not being a dick to Space Engineers here, and I hope everyone understands that. I've seen many an early access game fall on its backside in the last 10 years as a gamer myself. Critical features to me, like multiplayer, are missing from the game right now. So yeah, that is something I take into consideration. I will have some more thoughts on this in the coming days. For now, leave me your questions in the comment section below, and we'll see about doing a video to answer some of them. While you're here, if you want to stay up to date with the latest Space Engineers 2 news, hit that subscribe button. I'll be keeping you updated throughout the development of Space Engineers 2. If you have any questions, drop them in the comment section below. Don't forget to let me know your thoughts on the game reveal today as well, and what else you'd like to check out. Thanks everyone, have a lovely holiday season, and I'll see you very soon.